All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're strapping in for what is essentially a fast-paced action thriller. We're diving into this explainer on the most absurdly brief and honestly hilariously unequal conflict in human history. I mean, we're going to break down exactly how an entire international conflict started, escalated, and completely finished before you could even finish brewing your morning coffee.
So I want you to imagine for a second, what is the absolute shortest war you can think of, right? A few months, a couple of weeks, maybe the Six-Day War? Well, hold on to your hats, because the actual answer to that question is shorter than a single episode of your favorite sitcom. 38, that's it. This entire international war lasted exactly 38 minutes. It's a number so small you'd honestly think it's a typo in the history books, but nope, it is entirely real. Let's look at how this even happened. Section 1. The Imperial Chessboard. So let's travel back to the late 1800s, 1896 to be exact. The British Empire and the German Empire were basically in this massive geopolitical tug-of-war over the island nation of Zanzibar.
Now, Zanzibar had a reigning sultan who was very pro-British, which obviously kept the British Empire quite happy. But then, he suddenly died, under highly mysterious and, quite frankly, very poisonous circumstances. And whenever a ruler dies like that, a power vacuum instantly opens up. Almost immediately, a rogue cousin of the late Sultan swoops in and seizes the throne for himself. Now, of course, he claimed he had absolutely zero involvement in the whole poisoning incident. Yeah, wink wink. But he critically ignored one major rule. The British Empire had previously declared that any new sultan absolutely had to have their direct seal of approval, and this new guy, yeah, he definitely did not have it.
Section 2. The Rogue Sultan's Defiance. This is where we see just a stunning case of sheer misplaced confidence.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole vibe here. When British officials firmly demanded that he step down and respect their succession rules, the new sultan essentially told the most powerful empire on earth to go touch sand. I mean, it's a hilariously blunt response, especially when you think about the era and the massive power dynamics at play.
Well, the British, as you might imagine, did not take this well at all. They handed the new sultan a final ultimatum: surrender the throne immediately or get completely wiped off the map. His reaction? Basically, you and what army? He was cocky, he was dug in, and he honestly fully believed the British were just making an empty threat.
Section 3. The Ultimatum. Because here's the thing, the British didn't bring an army, they brought a navy.
Talk about the ultimate David versus Goliath mismatch, except David totally forgot his slingshot this time. On one side, you have the Sultan, barricaded inside his durable but ultimately wooden palace. And on the other side, coincidentally docked right in the harbor with their massive cannons pointed directly at that wooden palace, are 4 heavily armed British Navy gunships.
The tension is literally like something straight out of an action movie now. The British set a strict ticking clock. The ultimatum was crystal clear: relinquish the throne by exactly 9 a.m. that morning or face the devastating consequences. But the Sultan, still clinging to that wildly misplaced confidence, just brushed it off. He kept telling his inner circle that the British would never actually fire.
Section 4. The 38-Minute War. Okay, let's dive right into this. The clock strikes 9, the deadline passes, and what happens next is a masterclass in overwhelming force.
At 9 a.m. sharp, the ultimatum officially expires. Just 2 minutes later, at 9:02 a.m., the British warships open fire. And we aren't talking about a warning shot. It was a devastating, point-blank barrage that reduced that wooden palace to absolute rubble almost instantly. The bombardment was relentless, completely shredding the defenses. And then, at 9:40 a.m., a mere 38 minutes after it began, the guns fell silent. The palace surrendered.
But wait, where was our super-confident Sultan during this 38-minute storm of iron and fire? Well, while his palace was being completely obliterated around him, he made a very quick, very chaotic escape through the rubble. He fled the scene entirely, running off to seek refuge in a nearby German consulate to save his own skin.
Section 5. The Absurd Aftermath. So, the dust settles, the smoke clears, and we really need to drop our pacing to a sudden quiet halt here to look at the math. Now, what's really interesting when we examine this data is the brutally lopsided nature of the conflict. The toll it took is laid out in stark, tragic terms. In any war, we look at the cost, and here the mathematical reality is genuinely jaw-dropping. 500.
That is the massive number of Zanzibar defenders who perished. 500 lives lost in just over half an hour. It's a completely staggering human cost for a conflict that was literally over before breakfast. It really highlights exactly how devastating those 4 British gunships were against a wooden structure.
And then, in complete contrast, the mighty British Empire suffered a grand total of exactly one single injured sailor. I mean, it wasn't even a battle, right? It was an execution of power. The technological and military gap was just completely insurmountable.
And look at how ridiculously fast the British resolved this entire geopolitical crisis. Step 1, the ceasefire is called at 9:40 a.m. Step 2, they dust off their hands and literally install their preferred, highly compliant ruler that exact same afternoon. Everything was wrapped up, signed, sealed, and delivered before dinner time. All was well. Or, actually, scratch that, as well as it could be for the British Empire anyway.
Which brings us to a final thought-provoking question to end today's explainer on. Is 38 minutes truly a war, or is it just extremely aggressive diplomacy? When an empire can erase a change in government, completely obliterate a palace, and install a new leader in the exact time it takes to watch a sitcom, it really leaves you pondering the true definition of warfare. Thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown. Keep questioning history, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.